I'd like to talk about the effect of having these experiences with God, with Jesus. It's profound, doesn't even begin to describe it. But I remember when I was writing my book, Having an Unexpected Journey, I spent weeks trying to put into writing what the effect was on me personally. And even with the final draft, I wasn't happy with it. But it was the best I could do with the intelligence I have, because how do you truly explain the love of God and the sense of belonging, the sense of being profoundly appreciated by the Supreme Being? And one of the questions I get most frequently is, since you had this experience, Jim, how has it changed you? How has it changed you? And it's profound. It's profound. I can't, for the life of me, understand how anyone could have this experience and not immediately want to share their heart with the world. And it took me a few weeks or months to come to grips with that, because I didn't feel I was qualified. But I think the thing that I want people to understand is, you don't have to have this experience that myself and the other near-death experiencers have had. This can come to you by a deep connection with Christ. There are millions of people who have, without going through an illness or a dramatic exit from this world, that have that relationship. I hope it's tens of millions. But what it did for me was it gave me the ability to see with the eyes of Jesus. Now that in itself is quite a statement, but here's what I mean. I can see you. I can see the light of God in you. People are not machines to be used in our lives. They are precious and filled with the light of God. I mean, how can we ignore that? But I'm growing every day in my ability to accept people as Jesus does, just as they are and without judgment. The love and connection I feel for people I meet now can be overwhelming. I often cry. I've stopped apologizing because I cry for the beauty that I see in their souls. There are no incidental people. We are all created on purpose, with a purpose. And sadly, so many people wander through their lives without this deep connection to our Creator. But with this vision of people, I'm growing in my ability to feel the pain people experience in their human hearts. I'm not just imagining it, I feel it. And the depth of hurt they carry with them, I can sense how deep it is. So I have this urge to quiet their hearts, to set them at ease in the love of God, to let them know that they are seen and valued, that they bear the light of God. The light of God. The guardians. And I love talking about this story because it's exquisite in its simplicity and in its profoundness. When I met the first three the three guardians, and then to discover that they all bowed to me. They bowed to me, the lowest of the low. At first, I thought they were being polite, but this was an unmistakable vow of reverence to me. To me. And I turned to the guardian closest to me and I said, "Why do you bow to me?" I mean, I felt inside, I should be bowing to them. These are God's messengers. And the guardian said to me, "James, do you not know that when we bow to humanity, when we bow to you, we are honoring the light of our Master within you? The light of God is in us. It's in you. But life and experience and disappointments tarnish that light if we do not keep it bright. It tarnishes that light in us, and it is such a loss of happiness in your life. And I tried that I think is the central message that of all the things I can talk about, is to realize God is in you. But I said this one time in the church, and I said, you have to realize something. Jesus is shy. He's shy. How can the Son of God be shy? He's shy because he would never, ever impose his will on us. The greatest gift that God bestowed upon us is free will. And we take it so for granted. He's God. Jesus is the Son of God. They could demand that we love them, but they don't. They gave us free will to make our own decision. And I am acutely aware that we take it for granted. The free will that we have is the greatest gift that God could have ever given us. Because the central tenet of this is love cannot be taken. It can only be given. We know that in our relationships. If we expect to take the love of someone, that relationship is doomed. It will die. I'm sorry to get so preachy, but it's such an important thing to realize, that your decision to love God is yours and yours alone. It is not something that's forced upon you because you were born into a family that had a particular religious affiliation. It's your decision. It's that personal relationship. And I just hope and pray that this program today has opened people's hearts to the fact that the decision to love God, to honor him, to have him in your life is yours and yours alone, not someone else's. And so I just hope and pray that of everything that's been said over the last 2 days carries through to your hearts, and you remember that Free will is the key to heaven. But beware, it is also the key to hell. It turns the same lock. I also want to bring to your attention something that I wanted to make sure that we concentrate on going forward, and life used to be, although I lived a good life, I thought I was successful, but it's this gray thing we trudge through on a daily basis, trying to get ahead or stay ahead of the other people. Life is now filled for me with joy, with the life I have with my wonderful wife, who is such a blessing to me every day, and whose faith in God is an example to me every day. I have seen the effect that my experience, and I guess the experiences of the other people who have spoken these past 2 days, has on people. The story gives people that hear the hope of something more than the grind, a tangible sense of what is to come. Not only that, but tangible evidence of transformation in their hearts. I really want people to realize that, as difficult as this life can be, having the presence of God and the light of God in you creates a trace of the serenity of heaven, and the goodness of God will follow you every day. I know that we live in a time of unbelievable, what seems sometimes to be overwhelmingly bad and difficult, and everything that's going on in the world, especially the last month or so in Ukraine. I just want to remind people that, and non-believers will say, well, if there was a God, why does he let this happen? I circle back. It's the free will of the people that were in control to create this chaos. But it's also in our free will to show love, to show kindness, to show compassion. I sometimes wonder why God trusts us so much. And I remember, in fact, asking the question of one of my guardians during my death. And I had become quite familiar in conversing with them. And by the way, I loved the fact that they speak. I didn't hear any thee or thou, but they spoke in very contemporary terms. But they had this kind of Victorian gentility to their speech, very precise. When they spoke, there was endless wisdom. And so, as I became more familiar with them, I said to them, and this is relevant to what I just said about the war in Ukraine. I said to one of the guardians, I said, how can God put up with the way mankind is? Why doesn't he just, what could he possibly see in us? What does Jesus see in us? And the guardian looked at me with this kind of perplexed look in the beautiful violet eyes that they have. So in response to my question of what does God possibly see in us, he said, James, do you not know that what God sees in you and mankind is himself? You see how that circled back? the light of God, the light of God, the light of God. And so I want you to keep in mind that in the face of what we consider to be endless cruelty, because we come home in the evening, we turn on the TV or go online, and we see all the carnage of the day before. And I said that to the Guardian. I said, how can that be? How can I possibly look with hope for mankind? And once again, focused those beautiful violet eyes on me and said, James. And it wasn't, I kind of got the feeling that he was not frustrated. They don't get frustrated. But he was trying to put it in terms that my limited intellect could understand. And the Guardian said, James, what mankind does not see on your various modes of communication, your TV, your computers, your newspapers, what they do not see, what they do not report on, are the countless acts of kindness and love and compassion that go on every day in front of us. But never will a major television station or a major news outlet report that someone bought soup to that old lady across the street, or helped that blind man cross the street, or that church opened its doors on a cold night. That's not news. So they don't report it. And so the Guardian said, what you must remember is in the records we keep of the goodness that you do in the book of your life as mankind, it is immense, the kindness and love that occurs every hour, every minute, every second of your earthly time. Goodness is created. And it is immense. And if you took all the evil in the world, it is as this. It is as this. So I want to remind you to not lose faith that those countless acts of kindness and goodness that we pass by every day because they are the mundane. There is nothing mundane about goodness and kindness. It is the central teaching of Jesus. To help the poor, to cure the sick, to feed the hungry. And yet we, with all our so-called connectedness, never before has mankind been so connected by communication and so disconnected from acts of kindness in the sense of not realizing they're happening. And it's so wonderful to have it explained by this incredible being of God that we are not a lost cause. We are not a lost cause. We are God's pride and joy. We are God's pride and joy because He is in us. He is with us if we allow Him in. I'm sure so many of you have seen that painting, and I never did ever find out who painted it. but the one of Jesus knocking on a wooden door. Knocking, knocking. If you look carefully at that painting, there's no handle on the outside of the door. That door has to be opened from the inside. And that's what Jesus does. He knocks at the door of your heart. But you must open that door. Not your pastor, not your friend, not your mother. They all guide you to the door. But it's you that must open it to Jesus. It is phenomenal what happens in your life when you have Jesus in it. It's like finding your long lost friend. And I know that for someone that may have happened on this as I'm speaking will say, oh yeah, another one of those guys. Do not dismiss this lightly. Because not only did I have the incredible experience of seeing heaven, I had the awful experience of having a glimpse of hell. And let me tell you something. You know, I hear people ridicule the old fire and brimstone preachers of years gone by. They were right. They may have wanted to scare you straight, but they were right. Because you have no conception of what awaits you if you deny God. And it's not his fault. He gave you every chance. The words that scare me the most for mankind is 3. It's too late. And in those last moments of life, before you transition through the veil, you will be shown instantaneously all the times that God arranged for you, that put it in, how many times he put it in front of you to accept him, and you denied it. And now it is too late. And I think that for the people that you've heard over the last 2 days and myself, that's another big part of our message is don't leave it till the last moment. Don't leave it till the last moment. It sounds so simple, and yet it's so profound to make sure that you're ready for your death, that you do not fear it. When I say to people, you know, one thing about dying is it makes you incredibly liberated because you have no fear of death. I know what waits. I know what waits. I know what waits if you are a follower of Christ, and I know what waits if you are a follower of Satan. And it is not pretty. And I know that some of you may have read my book or may have seen some of the videos where I talked about the consequences of living a life of immorality, of no kindness, and then in the last moments. And sadly, I'm the poster boy for last moments. I didn't deserve to go to heaven. But what I mean by that is the person that I most identify with. Because people say to me, why you? Why not some missionary or some pastor who'd spent all his life? I don't know. I guess I'm the poster boy for lost causes. But I know this, that the person I identify most with in the Bible is the thief on the cross. Because in the last minutes of his life, he too, like me, cried out to Jesus for help. And of course, everyone knows what Jesus said to the thief, this day thou shalt be with me in paradise. And I cried out at the last moment. So there is, there is that moment where you have to make you cry out for help, but you can't fake it. You can fake your way through life. You can pretend you're something you're not. You can't do that with Jesus. God made your heart. He sees it. There's no Hail Mary pass. You can't fake it. You may think you can, but believe me, you can't. And when I cried out those 6 words, those 6 words were everything to me. And and God forgive me and God help me. And my prayer was answered. But you can't fake it. It has to come from, like I've often said, a part of me that I didn't even know existed. And I'd like to tell you that I, came back with all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I think I've got the most important ones. Love Jesus, be kind, love each other.